What up, everybody? Over the past couple months, we've been trying to figure out what is next for the Power Universe with Power Book 2 Ghost and Power Book 4 Force coming to an end. And I can't say it enough that the Power Universe is not coming to an end. These two chapters are just ending. Because I see people commenting all the time thinking that Power is actually coming to an end altogether at the conclusion of these two books. But that is not the case. Like I've reported several times, there are multiple spin-offs in the works at Stars that are just being kept under wraps until the conclusion of the current books. And yes, I said at Stars because I've also heard people saying these spin-offs are ending because 50 and Power is leaving Stars. And there's also been a lot of comparisons made between the Power Universe and the Marvel Universe because of the multiple books and the crossovers. But I was doing a little research, and there are other shows that I looked into that Power might actually be following the blueprint of. I'm talking about cop shows from the major television networks. Many have went on to have multiple spin-offs, but specifically talking about Law and Order, which I believe is the most popular. I'm not for sure because I don't watch cop shows. But the other day I was watching a game and saw a commercial for one of these shows and thought to myself, why shows like Power get canceled after a couple years, but shows like Law and Order have been around since I was a kid? And when I started doing the research, I found out that Law and Order isn't just a regular TV show that's been around for decades, but it's also a mega franchise with multiple successful spin-offs still on the air. And this is what I believe the future of the Power Universe will look like. Something similar to the Law and Order franchise. And when I was doing my research on this franchise, I found out that the main Law and Order series was canceled in 2010 and then was relaunched in 2022. Making me think that one of the spin-offs currently in the works at Stars could actually be an OG Power relaunch with Ghost and Tommy Egan returning to New York. When it was announced that Power Book Force was coming to an end, it was said that Tommy's journey is not over. His time in Chicago is just over with, leaving the door open for Tommy to return back to New York. And if OG Power is relaunched, this doesn't mean that it will be the only book on the timeline it's on. But I feel like there would still be new spin-offs introduced as well on the same timeline as the Power relaunch. Like Tariq's story potentially continuing in DC on Power Book influence. Just like Force and Ghost ran on a similar timeline, and we've seen a couple crossovers now with Tommy joining Power Book 2, and even got a brief crossover at the end of Force Season 1 with Blanca Rodriguez, Agent Medina, and Jenny Sullivan. Also, who happened to team up together in Season 3 to try to take down the Tejadas. So it's very possible that these three could actually team up again with Stacy Marks on Force to try to take down Tommy Egan. Because Blanca was trying to get permission from Medina to look into the activity going on in Chicago. But he told her that she could keep an eye on it, but he needs her focused on the local cases right now. First win that Blanca gets that Tommy is still alive in Chicago, she will definitely be there to try to finally take down Tommy Egan. Because New York currently still thinks that Tommy's dead after he faked his death because he was wanted for Ghost murder after Tasha snitched and said it was him who killed Ghost. And this is the whole reason why Tommy was coming for Tasha in the first place, for snitching on him, especially for something that he didn't even do. So I think there's a chance that Tommy could get arrested at the end of Force and extradited back to New York for the murder of James St. Patrick. Then, what would save Tommy from these charges? Of course, Tasha could say that she made the whole thing up, or even go on the run to avoid testifying like she initially planned on doing. But even then, they still have her original statement, and Tommy was definitely in the area, even at Truth, at the time Ghost was shot. So even if Tasha didn't testify, at this point, they probably still have enough of a case to bring him to trial and hold him without bail because he's already faked his death. But if Ghost returned and said that Tommy didn't shoot him, this would throw out the entire case altogether. Because I think Ghost would reveal himself and come up with a plan to save Tommy before he let Tommy go to jail for a crime he didn't do when Ghost is just fine hiding out somewhere after faking his death. Of course, he would have let Tasha take the fall, and that was probably his plan altogether because they weren't on good terms at all at the time Tariq shot Ghost, and that was being part of the reason why Ghost was shot in the first place. Tariq being the one to shoot him, and Ghost, knowing that Tasha was behind the scene pulling the strings, wouldn't really care about neither of them, but just trying to make sure that Yaz was cared for the best way possible. But if Ghost was to come back and say that Tommy wasn't who shot him, then the first thing that the court is going to demand to know is why didn't he come forth sooner, and why did he go to the lengths of faking his own death? And this is when Ghost reveals it was Cooper Saxe who shot him, who was also at Club Truth that night with the gun. And he says that he never came forth to say what happened to him, but went into hiding instead because he feared for his life. I mean, the next day after he got shot, Saxe was named head of criminal of the Eastern District. This made Ghost think there was a possible hit out on him, and even to this day, he's still worried someone might be out to get him. But he can't let his day one sit in prison for a crime he didn't even do. Was this foreshadowed in Ghost Season 3, Episode 8, the episode that Saxe was killed, by the title of this particular episode? The episode was titled Sacrifice. Obviously because Theo sacrificed himself again to save Davis. But did he really sacrifice himself to save Davis, or only make things worse for Davis by killing Saxe, who had no relevant information and was about to go into hiding? So was the real sacrifice this episode actually Saxe himself, dying so James St. Patrick, aka Ghost, could make his much anticipated return to the Power universe? But even then, there's still a couple loose ends from OG Power that need to be cleaned up before Ghost and Tommy could officially make their return to New York. First being Blanca was about to arrest James right before he got shot. So what would stop her from turning around and picking the Terry Silver case back up if Ghost were to return and blow up their entire case against Tommy? First, since Ghost was supposedly dead, they would have to get a warrant from another judge to do this. But that wouldn't be able to happen because the key witness against James in this case, who lied to begin with, was Andre Coleman, who is no longer available to testify. So Blanca would have a hard time getting another warrant for this case. Not to mention, if Ghost returns, I think he could be an untouchable government asset like Mecca under the protection of the Democratic Party. And if Tommy returned to New York, he would still have to worry about the Savello mob after killing their capo, Benny Savello, and his cousin, Joe Proctor. So is there any clues from the spin-offs that they might be out of his way so he could return to New York? And there is indeed. In episode 1 of season 4, Blanca told Junior to leave the case alone and move on to something else, and that Jenny is now chasing mobsters. This could potentially be the Savello mob. And just like she was trying for a RICO case against Tariq and the Tejadas in season 3, she might get her RICO case with the Savello mob and take down their entire organization, officially opening the door for Tommy's return after Ghost clears his name. When Mecca appeared in New York in season 2, he told Kane the reason he returned to New York was because there was a power vacuum in the city that he intended to fill. This was because Ghost and Tommy were now out of the way. And when Book 2 concludes, there might be another power vacuum opening the door for Ghost and Tommy to return if Noma gets killed and Carter's dirty task force is out of the way. And at the beginning of season 2, one of the main suppliers of the city who supplied the Russians was also taken down. I think Carter could have been a foreshadow of Ghost's new role in the Power relaunch under the protection of the Democratic Party, sent back to the streets to control the drug game with the least amount of violence as possible. Like how Steve Tampio, who was connected to Stephen Ott by the way, protected Diego and Alicia Jimenez because they were controlling the drug game and the violence had decreased, and they preferred that as opposed to cartel wars. And because Ghost and Tommy have been known to unite gangs together and control the drug game, they would be perfect for this job. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.